What is up, everybody? We are here with the First Seed Fantasy Podcast. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by my lovely co-host Mike Del Corso, Dante Botts, and the one and only Zach Cole. If you're tuning in on YouTube, we are here doing a mock draft, just a straight PPR. I'm drafting from the 2. Mike's at the 4. Dante's at the 7. Zach's on the 10. We'll probably tweet out the results, post them on Instagram, but that's not the point of this recording or this episode. We are here talk some fantasy. More specifically, some bounce back candidates and guys we are not going to draft or not specifically targeting in drafts. But before we get into that, guys, how are you today?
I can't complain. I'm doing well. You guys?
Doing
Fantastic.
good.
Doing great. Fantasy drafts a week away, 2 weeks away. Oh,
Love to hear.
Mike, every time I mock, I see that countdown on Sleeper, and it seems like it's flying. Like every time I check, it's like 2 or 3 days closer.
it's creeping up, man. Creeping up. I
Amazing.
hope it flies for the rest of it too.
Love to hear it. Yeah, I'm amped. I am mocking almost too much, and that's why we're in another mock. But before we get going in our show, just kind of wanted to highlight a few news and hype coming out from camp, from practices. Big hype here is Saquon Barkley is looking to get, in quotes, a big bulk of the load in New York. So there's a lot going on there. And I mean, I think it's hard not to expect that. I think the backup running back there is Matt Breida. So it's not like we weren't expecting this. But do you guys have any? Did this surprise any of you guys?
Personally, it didn't surprise me. Sorry, Dante. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. Please, because I got a
Okay.
whole thing.
Oh, okay. You got a tangent. You're gonna go off on here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was typical. I was gonna say, I'm personally all in on this. I'm drafting Saquon as if he's going to be one of those top 5 running backs. Especially if you can get him coming back to you late in the second round to pair him with, if you're lucky enough, like Christian McCaffrey, even. I think that's going to just be monumental for your team. Even if you don't go that route, I think it affords you the opportunity to go with someone like a Cooper Kupp or a Justin Jefferson early, because then you're going to be getting a top end receiver and a top end running back, kind of like you would be getting in the back end of the first round. So I love Saquon. Obviously, that injury risk is built in, and it's scary, but I'm all in on him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. This is actually the first time he's voiced that he's able to fully trust his knee since the ACL injury, and I think that's important with a running back. In 2018, 2019, he averaged 19.7 points per game. I think I mean, if you can get that through running back, especially in the second, or even he's shown up as late as like the early third in some of the mocks that I've been doing. But if you can get that type of value at that space, I mean, that's invaluable. In the first preseason game, he played 12 snaps. He had 5 touches in that, and he also ran 7 routes. So I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities with him getting the ball in open space, and I think that's just that's the perfect way to use him. And yeah, he's borderline. He might be like a first round pick for me, depending on what round I'm going. If I'm in the late first.
I've seen him jumping. I mean, it's people memeing while they do this, but I've seen those first round picks because there was a lot of hype about him this past week, and really well warranted. Dude is a beast. He's getting a lot of love from the coaches. Yeah, I'm expecting big things. I think we all are. Mike may not as a Cowboys fan, but who knows? But moving on, we can talk about Saquon a little bit later. Some big news, I guess big news. I'd call it big. Kenneth Walker suffered a hernia, which can be an issue, but we're being told that it's not. But at the same time, everybody is very much just like on the fence. This could be season long. This could be not like he's out season long, but just kind of hinders him throughout the season. It's going to be tricky. Everything I've seen is that it's going to be a tricky injury, one that just kind of hinders, and unless he rests and really takes his time, which as a rookie, in my opinion, could really hamper his position in this backfield. But what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Kenneth, man. We did an episode last week where we kind of broke it down and we talked about his handcuff value and that he really wasn't going to be a handcuff and it didn't look like that was going to be the role for him. So it's devastating. He's got a little injury to start the year. Like you said, it could be something where he could be ready week 1 or he could be out a few weeks. We don't really know. I know that he avoided a sports hernia, which I believe that is more in like the core area, like your stomach area. So it was a little bit lower. And Pete Carroll, obviously just covering everything up, said he had a small procedure. So we're hoping the best for him. But like at this point, I mean, I do think that Rashad Penny does get bumped up a little bit in this scenario. I know he's banged up as well. But yeah, I'm hoping the best for Kenneth. I think if he comes back, he'll be an automatic value anyways. So if anything, it helps his fantasy value. You get a little bit of a discount on him.
Personally, I'm gonna flip to the opposite side of this conversation. I believe in Rashad Penny in a big way, so I obviously we never wish ill on any NFL player. We want to see them all healthy out there all the time. But I'm happy for this news because this makes Rashad Penny the clear cut one moving into week 1 and week 2, especially with his like roughly 9th, 10th round ADP right now. That's incredible value that you can get. You're getting a starting running back who, not to mention, was one of the best running backs down the stretch last year. So I'm all in on Penny and the value that he provides that late. So it's again, like I said, it's never a good thing for a player to be injured in any way, but I think that this helps Rashad Penny's role be a lot more clear cut heading into the season.
And you were pro Penny prior to the injury, so this
I
just
was even with Walker. This just clears up this clears the smoke, so to speak.
love to hear it. Love to hear that you're benefiting from this injury, Zach.
Yeah, personally, yes.
And then one last bit of hype, and this one we're all very big fans of this player. Every single one of us. Michael Pittman and Stephon Gilmore, they went at it yesterday. This is a direct quote from a source. Pittman ran a gorgeous double move that put Gilmore on skates down the sideline, and I'm guessing Gilmore did not like that. And we're all pro Pittman here. Very big. I think we're going to talk about him plenty later, so we're going to keep this as short as we can. Draft Michael Pittman. He's going. He just went in the mid third, and I think we're all happily taking him earlier than that. He's going to be great. We all know it. And just draft him. Enjoy him. You're going to love him. But after that, anybody else have some random hype? Any news they want to toss at me that they definitely want to get chatting about?
Maybe Amon Ra, that Hard Knocks. I don't know if you guys been keeping up, but Amon Ra with the training with his pops. I'm like, golly, I'll draft him in the first round off that training video. Jeez, he was looking good. But that's Hard Knocks, though. They'll make a water boy look like an all pro. So
listen, I think I want to draft John Brown, his dad, after seeing those workout videos.
His dad is ruthless.
I was watching this before, like right before we hopped on, and he was saying how you shouldn't do the tricep push down, but he didn't say why not. Like he didn't tell you what you should do instead. And I'm actually very upset about the Hard Knocks editors because he straight up said you shouldn't do this. You got to do, and then they like cut it. He didn't tell you what you should be doing. I felt very, very disappointed. Very
Cliff hanged.
super. And it's not like he kept talking afterward. It's not like they cut the segment. He kept going. I was very disappointed. But no, Amon Ra. Welcome to the bandwagon, everybody. The Lions are in for a big year, and especially Amon Ra.
I'm on the hype train too. The dude, he's obviously got some fire to him, and obviously as the days go by here, we're starting to learn that Jameson Williams most likely won't be ready for at least a week, possibly more. They're thinking. I saw a report today that was talking about rumors about October at this point. So I going into the season, I thought Jamison Williams had such a dynamic like skill set that he was going to force the ball to go to him. Without him there, this is a clear cut wide receiver one with no competition. Honestly, besides Swift to catch passes on that team. So I'm on the hype train, and I want to go back to what you said about John Brown as well, the dad. Uh, Poor KD, man. He had to just talk about KD's Achilles, and I was like, damn, man, like KD can't catch a break. That was one of the funniest parts I thought was that he mentioned KD's Achilles. He's like, when's the last time you've done a calf raise? and that's
He saw
KD fan right
Good
there.
question.
He saw his opportunity and he took it.
Mhm.
Kyle, one last piece of, I guess, just
I gotta
news
hear it.
or hype, whatever, coming from your resident Panthers fan. I don't know if you guys saw today, Christian McCaffrey got in a little scuffle. The Patriots were having a joint practice with the Panthers, and those dirty bastards up in New England, they took a late shot at Christian McCaffrey and brought him to the ground after the whistle. But I think that the deeper news is I think it kind of pushes Christian McCaffrey in my eyes into that like hungry revenge tour category, kind of with Saquon Barkley. Like he seems like he's had enough of the disrespect. He wants to prove that he's still top dog in the league, and you know, I truly think that they were two freak injuries the last couple years that have held him out. I think we could see something really special out of him this year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, we've got two pieces of hype that say the Patriots did something negative. They got upset at guys that we very much like this year, in both Pittman and McCaffrey. So we've got that. We
Wait.
got something.
What do you mean, Stephon Gilmore? What?
Ex-Patriot.
Oh,
Ex-Patriot.
I'm gone.
You're stuck in like 2018, dude. That's
What
We know
are
bad.
what you meant.
doing?
We know what you meant.
Get me out of here.
Speak for yourself, Dante. I don't know.
But I'm very excited for McCaffrey. I think you put it perfectly, Zach. It's the revenge tour of these running backs that couldn't catch a break these past few seasons. But I'm excited for McCaffrey. He's my clear cut RB2 or pick 2, I should say. Because I think it's Jonathan Taylor, him, and then everybody else.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. I think that if you can get McCaffrey, if he falls to you somewhere, you know, egregious like 3, 4, 5, 6, and you don't know what to do, you're worried about the injury, you have to take the upside at that point because when he's on, he's literally a quarterback in your running back spot with the points that he puts up week in and week out. So, love Christian McCaffrey.
All right, fellas. So now that we've made our way through the hype, let's get into the bulk of it. We are talking some bounce back candidates for this upcoming season. Some guys who were just flat out bad or mediocre not last year, didn't really perform, didn't give you a lot of loving in the fantasy point column, but just some guys that we think will and should have a better season this year based on what they did last year. And I'm going to just kind of kick it off, list a few guys, have you guys kind of chat about them as you wish. But we compiled this list ourselves. But two quarterbacks, both Matt Ryan and Trevor Lawrence, both bounce back candidates. Last year they finished as the QB 20 for Matt Ryan and QB 22 Trevor Lawrence. And this year they're going in basically the exact same range but swapped. What do you guys think? One of you mentioned these two. What do you guys think about them as bounce back candidates?
So I'll talk about Matt Ryan for a little bit. I think given the fact that he had nothing outside of Cordell Patterson as an offensive weapon, I mean, Calvin Ridley was there for a hot second, but we all know what happened with that. I think this new offense, they completely upgraded the offensive line. He has Michael Pittman, obviously, Jonathan Taylor. Defenses are going to be focused on that running game. I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunities for the play action for Matt Ryan. And I think he's already establishing a connection with Pittman in this preseason already. So I just think it's a new system. I just think with all that, I guess fresh, it's just everything's fresh for Matt. So I think with that, it provides new opportunities for him. I'm not saying he's going to go back to the MVP caliber season he had like 4 or 5 years ago at this point, but if you're going for the heavy RB wide receiver strategy and picking a quarterback in the late rounds, I think Matt Ryan is someone you could potentially be striking gold with.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to pull it up, but I remember there was a while where it was a back and forth for Matt Ryan and his fantasy finishes. Yeah, here it is. So in 2012, he finished as the QB6, and then following years, QB12, QB7, QB20, QB2, QB15, QB2, and then 10, 12, 20. So he had those like back and forth years where he was QB2. He was a top 10 quarterback for fantasy
He's
purposes.
freaking due, baby.
He's due. He is due. So I agree. I think he's in an offense that's finally going to allow him to excel like his previous years. I mean, he doesn't have prime Julio, but he has prime Michael Pittman. And it's not comparable, but at the same time, that's not too shabby. And he's got a fantastic line in front of him that he hasn't had in years. And add in Jonathan Taylor to take off some pressure, and we could see a very different Matt Ryan than we've seen in the past few seasons. So I'm with you. And especially he's being drafted as the QB 22. That's a dude you can take off the waiver wire right before week 1 if you're feeling like it, and you're just like, dope. I've got a guy, and see what he does week 1, and if he's kind of that guy again, you'll know. You reap all the reward.
Let me ask you guys, if just looking at their ADP or their it looks like their finish from last year, they're both respectively 20 and 22, and then 22 and 20 between Trevor Lawrence and Matt Ryan. If you are in the, I don't know, let's say you're going late round QB, you're in the 11th or 12th round, and you're looking at both of these guys on the board. Which one are you guys more trusting in this season?
I'm sticking with Matt Ryan. Better team. That's why I'm gonna stick Matt Ryan. I like what Peterson is gonna do with Lawrence over in Jacksonville. But even while he was with the Eagles, it wasn't the most dynamic passing game in the world. So I know he helped Wentz's numbers a little bit while he was there, but I'm gonna go with the better team. It's just a safer pick for me. Obviously, wait on that late round tight end. You want to make sure that you get someone decent, or if not, if you're going to wait that long, just take 2 of them. So like that's one of those things. I'm looking at the team. I'm looking at who's going to be competitive at the end of the year. That's why I'd stick with Matt Ryan there.
Okay, Dante, I'm assuming you're Matt Ryan too.
I mean, the safer pick is Matt Ryan, but I think you have upside with Trevor Lawrence with the rushing presence that he provides. That's the only reason I would. You have that, or like the dump passes, the ETN for touchdowns, like that could potentially be something goal line wise. But yeah, I'm just not really number one. Well, I mean, the Jaguars are going to be down a lot in games too, so it's just going to provide more opportunities. I mean, there's a way you can like kind of like persuade yourself to lean Lawrence, but I think just to be safe, I mean the weapons are solidified at in Indianapolis, so I would just go Matt Ryan just to be safe.
Yeah. Okay. How about Kyle? What do you think?
It's weird to say that I think Trevor Lawrence has the highest upside, just being younger and probably having a little bit quicker weapons on the team, but I'm gonna say Matt Ryan. I think he's probably my choice if I'm like going 0 quarterback, letting everybody take 2, because some of them do, and I'm just like, all right, I'll take Matt Ryan. I think he's a guy. He's gonna give you 15 to 20 points almost any given week, and that's really all you need out of a quarterback. He's not gonna win you any weeks, which kind of stinks, but he'll have a few good weeks or a few fantastic weeks. But yeah, I'm taking Ryan as well.
Yeah, I think Kyle, you hit the nail on the head there, is that Ryan's going to have a higher floor, meaning that he's week in, week out, it's going to be more consistent, but he's going to have a lower ceiling than Lawrence, meaning you might not get those huge games of, 30, 35 points. You're going to kind of always sit in maybe that 20 to 25 range. Whereas Lawrence definitely has a lower ceiling, because I feel like there's a possibility where he can score 6 points in a given week or 8 points in a given week. But at the same time, I think he has those home run weeks too. Me personally, I'm also, I'm just, I guess I'm leaning more towards Ryan as well, because I think there's so many moving pieces in Jacksonville. I think bringing Kirk, bringing Evan Ingram in, shipping out DJ Chark, like there's just so many different things that are moving. ETN coming back, that I think it's going to be a little overwhelming for Lawrence in year one with all those new changes. I think next year is going to be the year when we really see Trevor Lawrence kind of take it to the limit. So
I think you're absolutely right. It's gonna. Lawrence is kind of built to have a steady introduction to the league, and I think we're going to see that because I don't think Christian Kirk is going to be that wide receiver one to really bring Lawrence up to that next level. All right,
Kyle,
and then
I just want to say I'm disappointed in all of you guys that you didn't understand the reference that I made there about taking it to the limit. Have you guys seen that video? It's a lady, and she's talking about the Jaguars, and we're gonna take it to the limit. you guys know what I'm talking about or not?
No, I
I
don't.
don't
I'm looking it up right
no,
now.
no. I'd like to see it. Now I want to see it. But yeah.
Kyle, can we get that pulled up quick?
yeah, I'm trying them.
Oh man.
I'm sorry I threw a curveball at you there, but
Let's
see here.
Is that how she said it too? Like we take. Oh, here we go.
Oh no.
Oh, does this have audio? Yeah, it should.
In the entire NFL, are you surprised to hear that?
Certainly not. The first year we took it to the limit. And I was in Miami with my new beach house. Well, it was a couple minutes from the beach.
It's been 20 years since then. We haven't been too strong in the last few years.
Oh, we've been strong. We're just playing by the rules. You can't have a newcomer come in and steal the show.
Thank you.
Jeez,
Just my
man.
girl right there. That's good stuff.
Steal the
Take
show.
it to the
Innuendos there. Oh my god. Her face.
Steal the show.
The best part is, like, she talks about we play by the rules, and like you would think that's maybe alluding to Brady or something, but this is from 1995. Like, what the hell is she talking about?
Oh, that's funny.
Sorry, that's my 2 cents for the day there.
All right. So moving past these quarterbacks, there's a few receivers here and a single running back, but we've talked about the running back, so I'm going to mention him and let you guys go on your tangents about him again. Running back Saquon Barkley, I think we all agree he's due for a bounce back season. Last year was a little bit injury riddled, but last year he finished as the RB30, and then this year he's being drafted as the RB14. So I think everybody's kind of assuming a bounce back season, but I want to hear you guys kind of give your thoughts on why or what is really drawing us to Saquon, because I think we're all really invested in him this year.
Yeah, I mean, I alluded to it earlier. The fact that he's getting the amount of touches, they're already alluding to him having a big workload, and he's going to be used heavily as a wide receiver. It looks like 7 routes and 12 snaps. So I just love the way they're utilizing him. Last time he was fully healthy, he averaged around 20 points per game. That was the 2018-2019 season. So I think if we could just go back to that, even with the amount of touches he might get in terms of targets, I think that would even impact that even more. So yeah, he has also upgrade offensive line. Kadarius Toney looks like he might be something special. Of course, we got Daniel Jones, the GOAT. So, yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm going to need you to elaborate a little bit more on Daniel Jones.
What do you mean?
on him being the GOAT.
Does his resume not speak for itself?
List it. I need to know. I hear Daniel Jones the GOAT. I'm gonna need some facts, some figures, maybe a few charts.
Okay, fact. Is he not a New York Giant? Is he not a New York Giant?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we need to do. That's the fact right there. That's the biggest fact of the day.
So is Kenny Galladay.
That's not a quarterback.
Really,
he's not a quarterback. I'm talking quarterback.
That's not the question.
I'm talking quarterback. Quarterback. Who was the last quarterback before Daniel Jones?
Oh, what was his name? It was some bum, not Eli. Who was after Eli?
Come on. Who's the staple quarterback? It was Eli. Come on.
Joe Flacco.
Jeez, was it really?
No, who was it? There was a guy between. There was a buffer guy between.
It was Gino for a little bit, I think.
Oh, who's the guy that replaced Eli in the one game that made him sit? Who didn't start the first? Was it Gino?
I think it was, yeah.
For the Giants, you're saying? Gino?
Yeah.
I thought it was Mike Glennon. What was it not Mike for a little bit? I thought it was Mike.
Yeah, possibly. No, possibly, but that's just a funny name to just bring up in conversation. Mike
Glennon. Come on now.
You're a maniac. All right. Moving on from Saquon, I think Dante covered it best. We all like him. He's going to bounce back. I think we're very hopeful that he does at least. But I'm going to list 4 receivers that we all kind of compiled as our bounce back candidates in the wide receiver department. And I'm just going to I'm going to say a random name and assign them to you. So there's Cortland Sutton, Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, and A.J. Brown, all as bounce back candidates. And I'm going to go, Mike, I want you to talk about A.J. Brown.
All right. AJ's an interesting story. So, obviously he had some issues last season in Tennessee. I'm not sure. I don't think he had major injuries last year. It was something about his mental health and stuff like that on top of being hurt. So he was kind of in a funk. I truly do believe in new scenery, just help you. It would help anybody out just to get that new coaching staff, new people, new support, basically. He's clearly going to be the number one in this offense. I think he's going to be heavily, heavily targeted, easily probably around 120 targets, if not 150 on the season, something like that. I have him penciled in as, without a doubt, a top 20 receiver this year. I believe I have him right around 15 at the moment in my rankings, and I'm sure it's going to go up as I do it day by day here before we draft. I think he just has a really good skill set, and he's good. He's good when a play breaks down, too. He knows how to get open. He knows how to break down zones. The guy is extremely elusive when he gets the ball in his hands as well, and extremely aggressive off the line. He's basically an all-around guy. So I know he's going to help Hurts evolve his game. No offense to Smith, but Hurts definitely has not had a receiver like Brown yet. I think it's going to help elevate that entire team. I'm high on Brown this year. Like I said, I'm aiming for Brown right around that 3rd, 4th round turn. In terms of value wise, if you're going to draft based off of value. The only downside to Brown is I'm a Dallas fan, and it's not going to be fun watching him play us. So I'm going to be rooting for him, except for 2 weeks this year. Other than that, if I have him in fantasy, I'll be rooting for him for the rest of the year. But
I think last year was last year when AJ Brown had food poisoning, and it basically sidelined him for 2 weeks almost.
I think that's what it was, and then on top of that, it kind of compounded with him just having the mental issues. He was in a bad place, stuff like that, which is totally understandable. And obviously, more and more guys in the NFL are speaking up about that, which is a very serious issue. It's one of the reasons that Calvin Ridley stepped away from football last year. take to my fantasy team. So it's like it was kind of just a bad spot for him. But I think getting out of that, getting into a new support system, new coaching staff, him and Hurts are really good friends. I think this is going to be a boom year for AJ Brown, if not his best year fantasy wise since he's came into the league. So I'm definitely excited for him.
All right, and then
Kyle, before we leave AJ Brown, give me a guess. What do you think AJ stands for?
Arthur.
Oh, wow. All right. Wow. Mike knew that answer. Shit.
Did you know that, or was that a guess?
He's definitely
actually
on his
did
player
know that.
page.
I knew that. I actually have one of my first signed jerseys I ever bought was AJ Brown's because I'm a huge fan. He's one of the first guys I ever wrote an article on about for First Seed. So I know everything about that man, Arthur.
It's Arthur Juan. Interesting, right?
Yeah, very interesting.
Arthur Juan.
That is, yeah. I wasn't expecting that.
All right. So then I'm going to toss Zach. Give me some Allen Robinson love.
Yeah, I'm huge on Allen Robinson. In a lot of my mocks recently, I haven't been drafting him, but that's not to any fault of his own. It's just because I like the upside on some of the guys around him a little bit better. Like I see guys like Chris Godwin, Marquise Brown, even Rashad Bateman are all kind of in that range, and I think those guys have true like top 12 potential in their respective offenses. Whereas Allen Robinson he's going to be a wide receiver too, on that offense, but he's going to be a damn good wide receiver too. Like I envision him being very similar to what you got with Odell Beckham last season when he got plugged into that Rams offense. I think he's going to step right in and take that role where he's going to take on a decent amount of targets, where he's going to haul in a couple touchdowns. He's a huge guy. He's going to be a red zone threat. And I think people kind of forgot how great of a receiver he was pre Justin Fields in Chicago, even going back to when he was with Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. Like he was an absolute stud. There was a point where he was going in the first round of fantasy drafts. Obviously I know he's older. It's been a few years since then, but he's got that potential to haul in, between 10, 12, 15 touchdowns this season. I know that sounds insane, but he's going to be used as a red zone threat. The Rams proved last season that they're not huge on using a tight end down there. So what's the second best thing you can use is a big bodied wide receiver like Robinson. So I love him in drafts. I think he and Matt Stafford are going to find a veteran connection almost immediately. And I think teams are going to overcompensate Cooper Kupp, which is going to leave a lot of room for Allen Robinson to feast this season. So even though he finished as the 81 last year, the wide receiver 81, and burned some people, I truly think he has – I'll put him as a safe top 24 receiver, meaning he will be a wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. And he's finally playing with a good quarterback. I think we can all agree Stafford is probably leagues better than Bortles, Fields, Dalton, and everybody else he was catching passes from. Yeah, probably. I know I would say that, but I was speaking for you guys. Yeah, like you said, Robinson last year finished as a wide receiver 81, being drafted as the 29th receiver off the board. Next two guys, Cortland Sutton. I don't know, Dante, do you have any love for Sutton? I know he's catching passes from your favorite quarterback.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all you got to say.
I mean, I could no, yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, but just to keep this conversation going, he finished with 150 fantasy points last year. Had multiple games with over 10 targets. His best game was against the Raiders. I'm sorry, his best game was against the Jags. He had 9 receptions for 159 yards. I'm not a lot of touchdowns. He only had 2 touchdowns last season. So I think with Russell, that'll greatly improve. I see Cortland Sutton kind of embodying that Tyler Lockett role for Russ. If I had to just like combine the two offenses, obviously we have yet to see how Russ utilizes his offense for a long period of time. But I do think the speed combined with the size allows for Russ to kind of unleash the deep ball a little bit more and have Sutton contest. So I do feel optimistic with Sutton or Judy, for that matter, and yeah, I can't really say anything negative about it.
Yeah, I think that's again. I really think Russ is going to bring a huge boost to all the receivers, but I'm part of the Cortland Sutton camp as well. I think he's going to be the biggest. He's going to improve the most, and I'm a fan. But I wanted to speak on Robert Woods quick for a second as the final guy. Being drafted as the 40th receiver off the board last year, he finished as the wide receiver 51 after missing out on the second half of the season. I think he finished or at time of injury, I think he was the wide receiver 12, and as the wide receiver 2 behind Cup, still being wide receiver 12, that's not too bad. Years before, he finished at the least as the wide receiver 14. Dude is just a PPR guy. He just gets targets, he gets receptions, and that's kind of how he gets his fantasy points. And I don't see why that would be any different in Tennessee. It's not like he's going to be in lesser passer volume offense, but at the same time, it's not like they don't pass the ball. I think he's going to have a great target volume in this offense and get you plenty of passes and have a great bounce back year, coming off of a fun midseason ACL injury last year. So that kind of wraps up bounce back candidates.
Yeah, and I want to snipe you real quick here. I had a comment on what you just said about Robert Woods as well. We just talked about Allen Robinson. What Robert Woods did, being that wide receiver 12, makes me really excited for Allen Robinson this year. Like, if Robert Woods was able to do that, great receiver. In my opinion, I think Allen Robinson is a more talented receiver. Kind of has more of a route tree than Woods did on the outside and stuff. That makes me extremely excited for A-Rob. And then quick comment on the Broncos as well. I think we're talking about like guys are going to have that bounce back year. I think every offensive player on the Broncos is going to score more points than they did last year, except Melvin Gordon. So I think we can go as far as to say that, especially with the news saying that Javonte is really going to start taking over in that backfield. So yeah, you could even put the Broncos team down as everybody's about to bounce back. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in there. You made me excited about A-Rob.
Love to hear it. All right, so those are our bounce back candidates. Well, count on them to bounce back. I think that's kind of the simplest way to put that. They weren't great last year, but this next year they're going to be pretty damn good. But moving on, some players we're not drafting this year, or I guess not drafting at cost, because who knows? If any of these guys dropped to the final round of your draft, you're probably going to take them. But either way, you're looking at ADP, you're looking at who's being drafted where and when, and just basically saying that's not worth it. Maybe in a few rounds I'll bite, but right now I'm off. I'm cool. Basically, these are guys you are not comfortable putting in your starting lineup. Essentially, it's basically the easiest way to put that. Not to start the season at least. But I'll kick us off. And who put this in here? Quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Let's hear it, Zach.
That's me. So I'm going to argue this on two fronts, I guess. And the first one, I'll just go strictly off the ADP. He's going very, very early. And he is a quarterback that isn't necessarily dynamic in the running game, which makes him immediately really, really risky to take this early in drafts. He's currently going in our mock here. He went in the third round. He was the second quarterback off the board, only going after Josh Allen. And when you compare him to Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and guys like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Kyler Murray, I skipped over Joe Burrow because he kind of falls in the same category as Mahomes here. But when you look at those other guys, they all have rushing upside, which makes them immediately more valuable as a quarterback. So I think already Mahomes' price tag is a little high just based off of that fact. But not only that, we also have to factor in that Mahomes is working with a lot of new pieces in this offense. They went out and they drafted Sky Moore in this year's draft. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster in free agency. Obviously, they traded away Tyreek Hill. And I think we're not taking into account enough how impactful losing Tyreek Hill is going to be on this offense. We take a look at Aaron Rodgers' current ADP, and I mean, let's see, where'd he go in the 8th round here? I mean, that guy was the MVP last year. And of course, he lost his best weapon in Devontae Adams, and he's paying the price with his ADP. So I don't quite get why there isn't a direct correlation with Patrick Mahomes as well. Well, he's losing his best asset on offense. I know Travis Kelce's still there. I'm not discounting that, but he lost his best asset on offense, and now he's still going in the same range. I don't quite get it, and I don't love him at that cost. So that's why I went ahead and I listed Mahomes as one of my do not drafts this season.
I can get behind that. I think the 3rd round price tag on Mahomes is a little bit too pricey. I think all of us have him ranked. I could be wrong. I should have double checked that. But I think all of us have him ranked QB3, at least behind Allen and Herbert, and he's going roughly 7, 8 picks before Herbert, and I think that's kind of ridiculous. So Zach, I think I'm hopping on board with you. I think I'd much rather take the upside in Herbert and probably like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts above before Patrick Mahomes. At least in those early rounds. If I'm investing in an early QB, I want a guy who's going to be above and beyond the best.
You said Mahomes was getting drafted 8 spots before Herbert?
Yeah.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
quarterback 3, I understand. But like I don't think Mahomes is gonna get worse. I'm kind of like on the other side of that. I think Mahomes is gonna be just fine and he'll finish as the QB3. But yeah, I agree. I don't think any quarterback for the most part I would have as like basically until the end of 2nd, early 3rd round ADP anyways for me. Personally, that's where I would look for him. So like yeah, Mahomes end of the 3rd, early 4th. I like that spot, but not where he's being taken right now, and definitely not over Herbert. I think that's absurd.
All right. So moving on, some running backs. We've got a laundry list of running backs here. A laundry list. There's only 4, but that's quite a bit in comparison to the sole quarterback and the sole receiver we have on this list. But Javonte Williams, who put his name on this board? Who said he's not? Who said they're not drafting Javonte Williams?
Me. And I gotta say I don't feel fully confident based on the reports that we're getting, but for me, it's not his play, it's just where he's being picked. I just feel more comfortable picking. I know we're not trying to allude to the draft or the mock that we're doing right now, but I would feel more comfortable taking a Leonard Fournette above Javonte Williams just because Melvin Gordon's presence kind of bothers me. I know when he was the lead back and Melvin Gordon wasn't playing at all as the Chiefs last year, he averaged 26 points. I get that. But the following game, Melvin Gordon had 24 carries for over 100 yards and 2 TDs. So I know Melvin Gordon's workload isn't going to be as impactful, but they are going to have both running backs on a pitch count just to try to preserve them for the playoffs this year. That also scares me. It's just when I look at, again, Leonard Fournette, dude was averaging like 7-8 targets before he got hurt. Yeah, week 10 to week 15, look the targets, the receptions, 8, 6, 7, 7, 4, and 7. That's ridiculous.
I thought you were gonna sing us a song, 8675309.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like the fact that he's getting those points. I mean, in a PPR, those are all points right there. So I would just feel more comfortable at where he's being taken. Late 2nd round, I just feel like you can get a lot more value at other positions. So that's my take.
I agree with that,
Oh,
Dante. I had Melvin Gordon last year, and it was great because he was annoying and he would get consistent work in every single game, whether it was 6 fantasy points, 8 fantasy points, and I think you're right. Until you have a guy, or I'm sorry, until he is gone from that offense and it's just the Javonte Williams show, I'm not interested at that range when I could take, like you said, a guy like Fournette or like James Conner or like Saquon Barkley, who are the one there.
Shit, I'd feel more comfortable taking Montgomery.
Yeah.
To be honest
Agreed.
with you, I know.
I
Just
highly
because
disagree with all that.
just because of Melvin Gordon. I understand that Javonte has the higher ceiling. He will probably be better than David Montgomery. I'm just saying in terms of who I feel more comfortable. I like running backs that I know are like the number one. Their production is not going to be challenged. That's just me. I understand that Javonte will have a better season most likely, but that's just me. You know
I'm
what I
with you,
mean?
Dante.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I mean, RB17 with less competition this year, with less like workload being robbed from him. I gotta say I'm on the opposite side on that one. I'm pro Harris or Williams. I think he should be drafted in the second round, no later. I still would take a guy like Lenny over him. Um, like Kamara, obviously, I'd take Chubb over him. I would not take Barkley over him. But he would be right in that second tier of running backs for me.
I think I'm taking him early to mid second. The way I see it is it's upside. I think there's the way I look at these early picks is I'm looking at guys who have the potential to be the RB1. Like the who has the potential to be like the best of that position this season or to be next year's number one overall pick. And I look at guys like in comparison, like you guys mentioned Leonard Fournette or like a Nick Chubb. I don't think those two have that potential to be the number one overall running back, but I
Saquon does though.
absolutely Saquon does. Yeah. And I
Kamara?
think that's
Oh no, before the never mind.
I think that's like I think Barkley and Williams is where I kind of like I'd go back and forth, but I think comparatively to Chubb and Fournette, I think Williams has much more potential to be that number one guy in comparison.
If he manages to slide and he's somewhere around the turn, like I would change my draft strategy if he ended up coming back to me somewhere where I wasn't expecting him to be. I'll put it that way. Like I'm in on him in that aspect, but I don't think I'm in on him where it's quite honestly, I don't think I want him in the second. I feel better with him in the third, and I think that's just where I sit on him.
Yeah, that's where I'm at as well.
Fair, very fair, and that's kind of why we do this because we all have very different opinions on almost every
It's good to
single
hear
player.
multiple sides of the
I'm
story.
totally prepared to eat shit though when Javonte has like 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, week 1. You know what I mean? I'm totally
It's one of
prepared for that.
it's
I
one of
understand
those
that.
it's one of those things you have to take a stance. You can't just be like, he can be good. He could be not be good. You have to take a stance on these guys, especially with Javonte. Like you almost always are rooting for young guys' success. So you're not like I know you guys aren't sitting here and be like, nah, I want him to be bad. So like to see him go and for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, you're just like, all right, cool. I understand I was wrong, but good to see it.
Yeah.
But all right, moving on. Next guy, we've got a guy who's ready to talk some trash in this one. And I think we have a few others lined up. But running back Miles Sanders going as the running back 27 in the sixth round running back. And here is very much saying he's not touching him. He could be in the final. He's very much a guy that could be in the last round, and Mike's not going to touch him. So have at it, Mike.
Yeah, listen. I mean, it's such an easy argument to say why would you take Miles Sanders in the 6th round? This is a guy I am not touching at all, man. You want to talk about what he's done in the past few years? His best year was his rookie season. The year after that, he finished as RB24 on, I believe, let's see, I got it up here just a moment. I believe it was 12 or 13 games. Let's see here. My bad. Yeah. And I lost it again. I'm so sorry. Yeah, 12 games. 12 games. And then the thing that kind of bothers me is Peterson leaves, they get the new guy in, and his rushing production, his touches in 12 games again the following season went down, and his targets went down. So this is a guy that played 12 games in 2020 and 2021, and his touches and targets are going down. That's the biggest thing for me. It's like, all right, I don't want anything to do with him. Obviously, he played the same amount of games, and they're kind of weeding him out at this point. And important to keep in mind too, they also added an extra game, so that's even more surprising. Like that he missed that extra game and still couldn't make up for it. So um, this is a guy I'm just not drafting. I don't care if he falls to the 10th round. I'm not taking this guy. When he's on the field, he's not giving you much anyways. I want to pull up his game log from last year to see what he actually did when he was healthy. His best game was literally week 1 and he had 17.3 points. After that, he had only 3 other weeks in the season where he scored above 10 points. No 20-point games. Like I am not drafting a running back in I like realistically, I'm saying 10th round because I personally would not draft him at all if he fell to the 12th. But 8th round, I think, is warranted. If you want to take a flyer on him in the 8th round, I get it. Projecting him at a 16 game or 17 game season, I could understand like 7th, 8th round if you're feeling that. But I'm not touching this guy at all. Like personally, his usage is going down. Gainwell is finally coming to gaining a role. He's got a lot of camp hype right now as well. And that team has always truly been a committee. There's never been a true role guy in that Eagles offense, even with this new guy as well running the show there. So Miles Sanders, my opinion, don't draft him. If you're gonna draft him, I could see it as like 7th, 8th round at the earliest. But this is a guy that trending downwards, less usage every year, injury risk on top of all that. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm out on Miles Sanders.
Bold, but not too bold. But I think there's a few of us here. I know Dante's kind of in the same camp. Me as well. I think that 6th round price tag on Miles Sanders is a bit too much, mostly because at that point you're drafting him to be in your starting lineup. And I don't think he's going to be that type of player. I think he's even come out and said that the style of offense that they're running this year is not one that's going to be good for fantasy, for him at least. I remember this was like a month or two ago, but he basically flat out said, like, don't draft me. Like, I'm not going to be good for fantasy. Yeah. And when a player is saying that, like, yeah, they might be spiteful of fantasy players in general, but at the same time, it's kind of like, why not listen to the guy? I don't know. I still don't understand the 6th round ADP. It's weird, but people want a air quotes starting running back, and technically he is one, but it's weird.
He was the only player. The last player. Let me say the stat first. He had 100 total touches and no touchdowns. The last player to do that was Frank Gore in 2012, I believe. Wow. So that's the company he's keeping. 27 games as a starter. He's only averaged 12.3 points per game. Oh. He does have goal line work. He's last year he had 15 goal line snaps, while the rest of the running back committee only had 13 combined. But that's only going to get siphoned due to Jalen Hurts, and now with the weapons of Devontae and AJ Brown, I just don't think. I'm off on him as well.
All right. And then moving on, 2 running backs. I'm going to kind of lump these 2 together, but 2 running backs that are not getting a lot of love in training camp these past few weeks. One especially, but both Antonio Gibson and Cam Akers are being drafted almost identically. One as the RB18 as Cam Akers, and Gibson's going as the RB19 off the board. And both of them are just kind of slowly making their way down draft boards, especially Gibson in recent days, honestly. Has been getting a lot of poor press after fumbling in the preseason game and being reports that he's practicing with the special teams, which isn't great for a starting running back. both guys have shown flashes of greatness, but also I have not been super exciting. Zach, do you have any opinions
Yeah,
on these guys?
I'll chime in on Gibson real quick. I first off don't like the. I'm gonna steal from Jason Moore. Kind of his catchphrase is you gotta follow the roster moves and follow what the front office is doing. And they're telling us that they don't really believe in him. They made it a point to go out and get J.D. McKissick back from Buffalo after he had already signed like a contingent deal. And then they drafted Brian Robinson out of Alabama. I think Brian, right? Brandon? Brian. B Rob. We'll just go with that. Out of Alabama. And he's a big power bruising back. So if you ask me, they got a pass catching back. They have a power bruiser back. I almost like I know it sounds crazy, but I almost feel like it leaves Gibson as the odd man out, where he's on a short leash, and if something doesn't go his way, I wouldn't be surprised to see if Ron Rivera pulls him out of a game at some point. We already saw that the fumble was an issue in the preseason, and last season he was just volatile. He was all over the place, and that's not the kind of guy that I want to draft in the fourth round, where I could be drafting someone like I don't even know. Let me look at the fourth round. A DJ Moore who's going to get me consistent points, or Jalen Waddle, or Deontay Johnson. Other options there that are going to be more beneficial to my team. So I just personally I'm out on Antonio Gibson. I've never really been in on him. I just don't fully believe in him as a productive NFL back.
Zach, I wanted to chime in as well. So obviously, anybody that knows and watches the show, Zach coaches at the high school level. Zach, would you ever take your arguably star player and put them on the punt team to block? Because if you look at that team, you got
And I
McLaurin
mean,
as the star, and then Gibson right behind him. Would you? Is that something like coaches do? How much stock are you putting into that? Like that news there?
yeah, I mean, typically that's a really, really good way to get your guys hurt. Freak things happen on special teams, whether it's someone hitting head to head and getting a bad concussion, someone plants funny, gets buried at the bottom of the pile and twists a knee. It's just not a good look for your starting star offensive player to be on special teams. So I think, Mike, I think that's a really good point. I think it's telling that it could be something more that they're trying to get him out there. It could just be that maybe they want a dynamic player, but more than likely I don't like it, and I think that it's a sign of something bigger going on.
Mm-hmm. Something behind the scenes,
Yeah,
something's going on there, whether it's to motivate them, like, hey, you're about to be on punt team if you don't start like getting your shit together or something.
right.
Like, I know that's another coach strategy. So like, yeah, it's hard. Like the camp news, you don't want to put too much stock into it, but I've never heard of that. So I think it's definitely important for everybody to just kind of keep in mind on Gibson when you're drafted in a week or so here.
Yeah, and kind of I'll highlight Akers a little bit, but he's just kind of been injured all training camp. I think the report yesterday was that both him and Henderson have just soft tissue issues. They're still kind of like managing their way through practices, but Akers is going in the end of the third round. And what we saw of him last year, or the very little we saw of him last year throughout the playoffs, was just very low yards per carry. A lot of touches, but nothing super productive. And none of that really, I mean, personally excites me. So, I mean, in that range, I can get T. Higgins went off the board right after him, and that's an easy swap. I'd much rather have Higgins or Brees Hall. Honestly, has a lot of upside in comparison. So, like drafting upside, I don't want Akers. I feel like he's limited. He's going to be limited all year with either an injury or Henderson, and I don't want really anything to do with that. So, a guy I'm not drafting at ADP. And then last guy on this list, wide receiver Chase Claypool. Mike has a lot of opinions on him. We kind of touched on him a little bit last week. So if you
Mhm.
just want to run through like a few bullet points, Mike, go for it.
Yeah, no, really quick. And this is a stance that's kind of, I mean, it's just something you look at. Like George Pickens right now, I think everybody on that team respects the man. He's earned all of their respect. He's a dog. Claypool, I believe, is out right now, so he's kind of just like paving the way for Pickens to become this huge star. But clearly, I mean, with watching film, I mean, from what the coaches are even saying, Pickens is going to be the true number 2 option on that team. I think going into the year for probably the rest of his tenure in Pittsburgh, as long as Deontay's there. The last video we kind of touched on the effect that Pickens was going to have on Deontay, and I said that I didn't like Deontay at his like late 3rd round, early 4th round ADP because I felt like Pickens was going to be a threat. But more so for this episode, we're talking about the effect it has on Claypool, and I think that it's going to tank his ADP. This is a guy that I will be drafting definitely after round 10 as like a flyer pick, most likely. This isn't a guy at all that is going to be on my mind. Nothing like that. I'm probably drafting him with guys like you see on our board here, like Jamison Williams, Romeo Dobbs, Nico Collins, Sammy Watkins, Van Jefferson. Like these are some flyer picks. So that's where Claypool is for me. I'm assuming in most leagues this year, depending on the rounds, he won't get drafted at this point. I think he will get drafted, but there will be some rare cases where he doesn't, just because I mean he's going to get pushed out on this team. They still got Calvin Austin, who they really love there. Najee's obviously going to have his fair share. Patty in the red zone is going to take up everything, and Pickens is just a presence, you know. And if Claypool is going into the season with an injury, he's going to have to kind of fight his way back and kind of like make himself still relevant on that team. So I don't know how you guys feel about him, but it's definitely scary, and I'm kind of out on him this year. I won't be interested in taking him at all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so we're going to wrap up there. I've got a few things to state, some housekeeping, but before I do, I'm going to run down the list. Quick hitters, no prep time. Zach Cole, give me a dark horse fantasy MVP.
I'm gonna go with the late round ADP times the production here. He was tied for 796th receiver last season. That's Mr. Michael Thomas, who went in the 6th round. I think he's got a chance to return to form, be great with a high volume quarterback, and I love him.
Bold. All right, Dante, dark horse fantasy MVP.
I'm going to go with Trey Lance. You got the passing rushing option in the 49ers. They're a top rushing offense. And, they've been a top rushing offense since Kyle Shanahan's been there. And yeah, I feel like because he's so new, I think defenses will not be prepared for him, and that'll provide a lot of opportunities for him.
That's a great pick, Dante. I love it.
Mike, let's hear it. Who's your pick?
Yeah, sorry, not a dark horse for me. I'm not going to be as creative here. I'm going Herbert or Jefferson as winning MVP this year.
That's not dark horse at all. I'm going to go.
Mike's going for true MVP right there. He's going for the best player. I respect that. No, that's all right. I respect that.
Mike's sitting here. He's just like, nobody's winning MVP except for these two. Won't even comprehend a different outcome. My pick is a little closer to Mike's, but kind of dark horse, and Stephon Diggs. I really like the target volume he could have this year, and probably somebody that you guys didn't even think of. So, all right, we're going to wrap it there. Few housekeeping first off. You'll see in the far end here, if you're watching, use code FIRSTSEED on Manscaped. 20% off your order. It's fantastic product. We think all 4 of us have had a chance to give it a shot, and I love it. I've got zero complaints. All hype. I'm a fan.
I'll tell you what, I've never had smoother skin in my life down there. We'll leave it at that.
The easiest way to put it, and it was so simple to use too. It was actually quite convenient. But yeah, code FIRSTSEED on Manscaped, 20% off. It's fantastic. You should give it a shot. And
It's
then
the first time in life I've wanted to smell my balls. Let's just say that.
yeah, I can't disagree. And then for again, code first seed on Underdog. Hop into a few best balls before the season starts. Best ball is essentially you draft and you forget it, and then you can check again mid-season and realize you're gonna win a few good couple bucks there. Right
You
now,
want to be a millionaire.
you could be. Oh, it ended. It closed already. Yesterday they started I think it was the Pomeranian, and it was a $3 super flex, and I think those sold out fast. So basically, keep an eye out. Jump into some quick drafts, but code first seed. Jump in best ball draft. They're the best drafts. I love them. But use our code. You get a basically a deposit match. You put in $100, up to $100. You could put just $10, and you get that much back as well. So you get double the money to play with, and just have a blast. I love it. The guys here love it. Mike and I have mocked a few times. Not even mocked. We've drafted a few times in the morning. It's fantastic. Love Underdog. Give it a shot, and you'll love it. They also have a few in-season tournaments, but we'll talk about that down the road. Again, code first seed, and then follow us on socials at First Seed Fantasy on Instagram, at First Seed Sports on Twitter, and then we all have our own solo Twitters. You'll find us if you find our site. But thank you so much for tuning in. It was a blast, whether you're watching or listening. I am Kyle with Dante, Mike, and Zach. Fellas, it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Pleasure
Always a
is
good
always
time.
best.
All right.
See you
Farewell,
guys.
everyone.